this is Governor Bobber. I like good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Good Friday afternoon, everyone. It is September 10th, the eve of 9/11, 20 years later, a somber day in American history. I could probably say it's probably the biggest event of my lifetime, my 49 years here on this planet. But we are joined. You're watching Dr. Politics and Political Architect show. We have Dr. Thornton. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you.
And Dr. Irvine, Media Dean and Dean of Washington Politics. Welcome.
Welcome, Dwight.
Yeah. So how's the week? I mean, the president can't help himself but make himself look like a total idiot.
Yeah, I mean, let's go. I mean, you mentioned it's the eve of 9/11, yeah. So why don't we just start there, because it is a very impactful event in all of our lives. I mean, we're relatively close in age to each other. I've got a good decade on you plus there, but nevertheless, we were all relatively young when this happened. Yeah. And I mean, do you remember where you were?
Yeah, I was at my office. We got a call. Somebody said, "Oh, a plane just crashed into the World Trade Center." We didn't think much about it. Then the second one, we get a call like about maybe 5-10 minutes later saying another one crashed. And then we turn on the television, and then I go up on the roof of our building, and I see smoke coming up, and that was the Pentagon. My office was in downtown Silver Spring, and went up on the roof, and you see the smoke coming up, and I'm like, wow. And then I come back in, and I go, I see that the Pentagon was hit. It was a crazy day. It was kind of like today, you know how we had blue skies, very calm. I mean, today was a little breezy, but that day the weather was calm. It was like eerily quiet, and I remember the night before, I was out with friends, and we were talking about something. We ran into some Al Gore people who were whining about the election still in September. And they're like, Bush is going to be a one-term president, And I'm like, yeah, and then, it's funny how a few hours later, you see this happen, and the whole world has changed, so to speak. You have a lot of today. You have a lot of Hollywood types and so on that mock the reaction to 9/11 and say nothing was accomplished, and I think they're wrong, because they're just a bunch of godless America haters, frankly, in Hollywood. That was I also remember the next couple of days, and I was like, I could not believe the fires were still going. I think to a week after. I think it was a week. I think the fires were still burning in the World Trade Center. And I was thinking like, wow, that's a lot of jet fuel. And I was just amazed. And I'm trying to think of his name. We had a friend, Don, that worked at Leadership Institute, who was in Tower 2, and he survived. I want to say, what is his name? His first name was Ken. I don't remember his last name, but he worked for Morton over at LI. And I didn't know about that until Jamie McDonald mentioned that that they gave him like an award a year later at CPAC, or something like that. But and we knew our friend Barbara Olson, who was on the flight that hit the Pentagon. Very sad day. I remember Barbara Olson from when I remember during the recount time, Barbara Olson goes, "Don't refer to him as Governor Bush anymore. Call him President-elect." When you're talking to the media, it's always President-elect. To get the narrative going. But I mean, nobody saw that one coming. And I want to say, the Obama and Biden administration have gone back to that 9/10 mentality. They're back to where we were on September 10th, 2001. You've got, and in light of what happened last couple of weeks in Afghanistan, it's just not when it's basically when they're going to attack us again, because we gave them a lot of shiny equipment, missile launchers and all sorts of stuff. And if there's another attack, heaven forbid, blood will be on the Biden-Obama administration's hands, frankly. It was their lax policies that led to all this. Obama released the cabinet for the new Taliban government over there. We've got, and you had Jen Psaki, was it yesterday, that was praising the Taliban for being professional. And I'm like, really? It's despicable, but yeah.
Yeah. Jeff, what about you? What are your thoughts about 9/11, your memories?
Yeah, so I remember, being at work in Michigan, but more so than that, I remember that my brother-in-law, Jeff with a J, was working in the Pentagon at the time for the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He was in one of the lower levels, so on I think one of the far side. So he wasn't directly like in the line of impact, but I remember that specifically, that he was there during that time. Yeah, I mean, I think the plane hit right in front of the Pentagon. The Pentagon. It did hit the actual building, but still did a lot of damage to the facade and such. But yeah, I mean, the underground, I think it's like 5 levels underground that, relatively unscathed. But regardless, it was very traumatic. And I remember seeing, I think one of the most vivid images that still stick with me is, people jumping out of the building when it was on fire, and that was just terrific. Speaking of Afghanistan, it kind of reminds me of the people hanging onto the plane for dear life as it was trying to take off. I mean, these are people in desperate situations trying to do anything, even that, a normal sane person would consider they're going to die. But, what's the alternative? It's dying one way or dying another way. So I don't know. That was certainly a horrific time. And to Dwight's point about, the respect for 9/11, I mean, a lot of this generation has not grown up with that as part of their background. And I was up in Baltimore recently and saw the 9/11 memorial that we have in Baltimore, and people were just like standing on it and just like not really respecting just a piece of the wreckage. And it was just like, these people have no idea what this really means to the American people. And there's some things changed. I mean, things change all the way around. I mean, I'm not saying that every change was a great change. But it certainly opened people's eyes to the threat. But I think, you say time heals all wounds. I think time kind of erases all memories. I think we've kind of forgotten the danger that the Taliban poses and still poses to our country. I mean, they are no friends of ours, and to treat them like, a welcome addition is like trying to negotiate with terrorists or kidnappers. I mean, there's really no reason. They have their own agenda. It's like they may cooperate with you, but doesn't mean that they are on your side. So I don't know. It's very disheartening to see how we are handling the situation, and we're kind of doing an about face, and we try to pull people out. We realize that was a disaster, so we try to put people back in. It's just not going well, and not just for our troops, but as Dwight mentioned, all of our equipment that's left behind, and all of our governmental and non-governmental people that have been working in the area. We just basically let them, we left them. So obviously we're trying to save face, but to hear people say that this was a successful operation, it's just completely wrong. This was not a successful operation by any stretch of the imagination.
Right. No, I mean, I think you're actually making some good points there in terms of that. It just, for me, I mean, I had gone to work. I was in my office. My routine back then was I would turn on the TV and watch CNBC in the morning for business reports, seeing which way the market was going to move. And I'm just like, I'm kind of watching that while I'm working. And then as I kind of glance over there, because the anchors, Joe Kernan and these guys are like, oh, we just got this report, and you see this footage of the plane going into the second tower, and you're like, wait a minute, everybody's like, what just happened there? The newscasters are all trying to figure out what in the heck is going on there. You can imagine just the chaos in newsrooms and everything else, trying to figure out, did we just see what happened? I mean, is it possible that, that a plane ran into there? And the first thoughts, were kind of like, well, some plane accidentally ran into the Twin Towers, until you realize, until the second one hit, and it's like, no, this is a deliberate act. I mean, this is an attack on America. And then it didn't take that much longer before we had the Pentagon, issue, and then the plane up in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. So, we have these cascading events going on there. And I mean, it was really giving, we were trying to figure this out. I had another older guy coming into the office. He would come in a little bit early as well. And, we were just watching television, trying to sort this out in our head. Like, is this real? It just feels very surreal. This is America. We're not used to experiencing this. I mean, it kind of gave a little bit of a flashback, I guess, to Pearl Harbor kind of a situation. America goes under attack, but, we didn't, we're talking 2001. Nobody expects something like this to happen. I mean, we'd had some other issues with some attacks, but, nothing to this level. Mm-hmm. And to see this happen, it's interesting what you're saying there, Beth, too, about the kind of the memory loss, Jeff, and the disrespect that some of the memorials are getting, because we have a whole generation of kids who they hear about it, they're going to be hearing about it, but it doesn't really feel like anything to them because they didn't really experience it. They didn't really see the terror. They didn't really see the things happening in real time as much as could be reported in real time, back then. And so it is hard. I mean, this is, Dwight, we've talked a lot about Vietnam on this show. We brought that up, and we brought that up in reference to Afghanistan even. And it is, we go through these periods of time. Vietnam also is very much a lost memory, because it's been over 40 years, I think when did we pull out? 1975 was the Saigon, evacuation, so you have this huge period of time. People, the old people, people who study history, we kind of understand all these things, and we have memories, and they're seared in there, and we're not going to forget them for the rest of our life. But all the younger people, it's just, unless they're studying history, it doesn't mean a lot.
When I was born, so yeah, I mean,
you have these things. Vietnam will not be as much to you as 9/11 is your big memory. When it comes to something, right? And so
the first one when the Kuwait was invaded, I did as well, because that was the whole we talk about fire and fury. That was completely awesome in the literal sense. I mean, I was just like, I couldn't believe what kind of firepower we unleashed at that point.
You were in high school then, right? Or were you in college?
No, I think it was in high school.
Yeah. And I tell you, I remember my earliest...
The Shuttle Challenger explosion, invasion, and 9/11. Those are the big memories I have.
See, I've got Anwar Sadat's assassination. I remember the Beirut Marine Barracks bombing. The liberation of Kuwait, Desert Shield, Desert Storm. Challenger, 9/11, 9/11, 2012.
It's kind of he survived, but that was, I do remember that at the time. That was kind of a flashback with a lot of people, I'm sure, because we had obviously the Kennedy assassination, which I was not born for, but people that were,
I don't think Don was born for that one.
Kennedy, I was what, 4 years old.
Yeah.
So it's not really much of a memory to me. I mean, if I want to learn, I have to actually go back to the history books and go back to the tape or whatever to have a better understanding of that. Because if you're 4 years old, what do you know?
I mean, I was 3 when Vietnam happened, but I have memories of Nixon's resignation. Vague memories.
But 9/11 is this is a big moment. I mean. It really, and it has a direct correlation to Afghanistan because we went in there as a result of 9/11, and so here we come up to tomorrow's 20th anniversary. So when you get to these 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, every 5 years in particular become big markers. 5 years from now, the 25th anniversary is going to become yet another big deal, and we have these issues. And, here's Biden, as we have talked about before on the show, this Afghanistan situation, they were looking ahead at 9/11. They're looking ahead at what's going to happen tomorrow, and they're thinking like, okay, Biden can be the guy that says on 9/11, we've ended this war, we're out of Afghanistan, we've had tremendous successes. Thank me. He can be praised for this as a big victory for the Biden administration, and went completely south. We lost 13 U.S. service members, hundreds of Afghanis, died, at the airport through this bombing. We've given the Taliban complete control, as Dwight said. We released prisoners. I mean, a lot of these people were released in the Bo Bergdahl exchange, right?
Yeah, the deserter, yeah.
And you kind of wonder about this. I mean, why did they ask for those specific people, and why did we give them those people? Did we not think, like, if they're asking for these guys, there must be a reason?
Yeah.
And something we need to really think about. Look what's happened. I mean, come on.
Hostages. Like, if you negotiate with them, there's always a deeper reason for it. I mean, if you're trying to do an exchange, obviously those people have some value, and they value them as much or more than what they're willing to take for hostages. So that should indicate the significance of their their release. So I don't know. I don't know if I would hate to be in that situation where you have American lives on the line there. But at the same point, I mean, when you cause that kind of backlash, and there's just no good outcome for that.
And here's something else that we're coming. Another anniversary tomorrow is going to be 9 years since Ambassador Stevens was murdered by Libyan ISIS in Libya, because the Obama administration and cackling Hillary decided to kill Muammar Gaddafi, who was basically playing ball. After President Reagan bombed him twice, he kind of shut up and then when we invaded Iraq, or liberated Iraq, I should say, he turned over all of his nuclear programs to us, like a good little despot. He goes, I don't want to have the same fate as Saddam Hussein. And then all of a sudden, you have the Arab Spring, which anyone who has a knowledge of Middle Eastern policy and politics, or a history, the Muslim Brotherhood, they are not our friends. Like when Barack Obama pulled the rug out from Prime Minister Mubarak in favor of the radical Muslim Brotherhood, it's ridiculous. It just shows how incompetent the Obama State Department was, that they would advise him, let's pull our support from. Was Prime Minister Mubarak ethically challenged in his country? Yeah, probably was. But something, I don't care. He was our guy in the Middle East. He stood by us, and then they had that whole disaster that followed when the Brotherhood took over. And thankfully, we have a general there that was able to kind of restore order to Egypt. Otherwise, Egypt would be another flaming mess in the Middle East, frankly.
I mean, hey, Dwight, I'm going to ask you a question when you bring this up. What about the Shah of Iran?
That's another one. Jimmy Carter did the exact same thing. He pulled the rug out from under him. I mean, it's sad that even at, I believe, the funeral they had for him, I believe it was in Mexico because he was in exile, where they had the funeral. Only President Nixon was only a U.S. person to attend. President Nixon was the only one that attended that funeral of the Shah of Iran. And here's the Shah of Iran. Yeah, did he have a secret police? Did he, but something, he kept the Ayatollahs and the radical bunch under his heel. And if he had to grind them out, running a country is a messy business, and running a country like Iran or any of those Middle Eastern countries, only thing they understand is brute force. And, you might have to make an example of a few people of your political enemies, that are out, to control power. And something, we were in the Cold War mentality. Iran was a strategic partner for us. We had oil rights there, proximity to the Soviet Union. And Jimmy Carter, another novice, bumbling idiot, and you had Zbigniew Brzezinski and Cyrus Vance over there at State and NSA, who basically were bumbling idiots who basically told the president, "Oh, let's do a rescue mission with these helicopters that really don't fly well in the sandstorms," and it's just shows the incompetence that Democrats have on foreign policy. Jimmy Carter, Barack Obama, even Bill Clinton was kind of clueless on foreign policy. You have Joe Biden, who's supposed to be this foreign policy wizard, who had the grand 3-state solution for Iraq, is another bumbling idiot, which is no surprise to anyone. Only people that thought he was a great foreign policy genius were the folks over at MSNBC, frankly.
Well, I think to your point, Dwight. I mean, again, everyone I think shares part of the blame of this. But when it comes to I think what Biden was expecting was he was expecting the Taliban to play with his rules. It's like to play nice. We're giving you a safe space where you can come back.
Yeah, liberals love their safe spaces.
We'll give you some legitimacy. We'll negotiate with you. This kind of things, and it's like they don't understand. This is the lefts feel fear the radical right. I mean, this is worse than the radical right. This is these are extremists.
Yeah.
So there is as much as we disparage some of the our own party's radical.
Yeah.
These are true extremists. These are people that will take any opportunity to and like you said, they only respect power. So it's just one of those things that and to your point with Iran, as I say, that was another thing where we basically pulled the rug underneath the leadership, and now the whole thing got changed into a theocracy, where before they had some kind of it wasn't the most functional government, but these kind of, if you want democracy to thrive in an environment where it only respects power, you've got to support the democracy with some sort of back end power, because otherwise it's just going to get overthrown, because people in those kind of areas, I mean, it's like we should know this from the Banana Republic things we tried, that you can't just establish a democracy and say we want people to choose their own leadership. Most people really don't care day to day who the leader is. They just don't want to be killed. And we have people coming in villages and terrorizing people, and taking hostages and forcing people to give up possessions and money and stuff. It's just a different environment. There's no way that America would survive in that kind of environment, because that kind of day-to-day struggle is just not what we're used to dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, let's look. I mean, if you look back in Cold War days, we played ball with what's his name, Ferdinand Marcos, Augusto Pinochet. I mean, they were not the best folks, but they were our guys. They looked out for America's interest, frankly, and that's one thing that's lacking in foreign policy. I think we don't seem to understand that. Look, if they're here's the thing. Hafez Assad, who was one of our partners on the war on terror, and his son Bashir, I think there was room. We could have worked with them before ISIS took over Syria and the radical elements there. He kind of had to go there because you had the administration, the Obama administration, that was demonizing Bashir Assad. I believe, was he a great guy? No, he wasn't. He was a horrible, horrible person. But at least he was not as bad. And then now he's turned to the radical ISIS folks in Syria. And thankfully, with President Trump being president, we don't hear much from ISIS in Syria anymore, because he basically pushed them out, and they're now back to where they were, in the deserts.
Well, I think this kind of reminds me of the Iran nuclear deal. It's like, is it a perfect deal? No. Did we, everyone could complain about it to some degree, but
they were secretly. I mean, the Iran nuclear deal was a horrible deal. They had no intention of living up to their end of the bargain. I mean, we sent pallets.
Well, first of all, it was a multinational deal, and it imposed everyone. Nobody got exactly what they wanted. I mean, we all could have wanted more, but it was a compromise across the board. And it said, depending upon how you frame it, Iran, could have still had secret refinement that they did. But the point is that it's still allowed for independent inspectors. 24 hours notice for I think any site that we wanted to choose. I don't know. Again, I don't know enough about it to speak too well on it. But the point is that I bring the point that it's not a perfect deal, but it's better than no deal, because at that point, there is nothing restraining them. So it's like, yes, we can complain about it. We can say it's a terrible deal, but it's still better than no deal. So the point is that when you deal with certain countries, they may be a terrible person, they may be a terrible leader, they may have their whole, an army full of skeletons in the closet. But if they are ultimately better than the alternative, you have to understand that you're dealing with not even shades of gray, shades of black at this point. Just choose the devil you want to deal with, and support them, and don't pull back. I think that's the thing that gets me the most, is that America is now being known, I think, globally as a country who makes promises but doesn't stand by them.
Yeah.
We never know every 4 years who's going to be in charge, if our policy is going to change for how we deal with foreign countries.
I mean,
You can't establish a relationship based upon who's president. You have to have a bipartisan support for these kind of establishments.
I mean, look at our Taiwan policy. Taiwan, Bill Clinton is the one who basically kind of turned his back on Taiwan. Let's be honest. That's how far it goes back. Our policy has always been, we will defend the territorial integrity and the right to the existence of the people, the Republic of Taiwan. And now it's like the Taiwanese, they know, they can see, if the Biden administration will have the courage of putting the Sixth Fleet between them and the Chi-Coms, as I believe it was Harry Truman that put the Sixth Fleet in the straits there, and put nuclear cannons on Komoyamatsu to prevent the Chinese invasion of Taiwan, which there was a professor I had. The grand plan was, when the Korean War started, it was supposed to be a multi-pronged, and that's why the Sixth Fleet was there. It was a multi-pronged attack. North Vietnam was supposed to invade South Vietnam. China was supposed to invade Taiwan, and North Korea invade South Korea. And it was supposed to be grand wars of unity, according to the communist side. But luckily, we had a president that had the good sense to put the Sixth Fleet there between Taiwan and China, and we put nuclear cannons on Komoyamatsu, which prevented that from happening. As a result, it stopped the North Vietnamese incursion into South Vietnam as well, which was kind of just pushed further along. They kind of kicked that can down the road, as history tells us, But the fact is, I don't think Joe Biden has the wherewithal of Harry Truman, even though he says the buck stops with him, But we know it doesn't, because he's been kind of blaming everyone and their cousin for the fiasco in Afghanistan. And it's so much, which kind of brings us to Biden's vaccine mandate that yesterday, and I tell you, I was listening to him on the radio. I didn't see the speech on television. But he came across very angry and bitter. Like, when he said, the fines are going to be double. I was waiting for him to break into the old Beretta theme song of, if you can't do the crime, can't do the time, don't do the crime, where he said fines are going to be doubled. And I was like, Joe, did you not get your nap today? Is that why you're so cranky? And I know it's past his dinner time, because he was talking at 5 o'clock, so maybe it's like interfering with his bedtime. I don't know. But that was all. There's a lot of civil servants, a lot of contractors that feel uneasy about this, where Joe Biden now with a strike. I mean, I'm fully vaccinated. I believe in the vaccines. President Trump gets all the kudos for developing a vaccine this fast. And I personally don't understand the people that don't want to get the vaccine. But here's the thing. I'm vaccinated. I am not going to catch it. And if I catch it, it's not going to kill me. 2, it's also, I'm not going to transmit it. And this is according to the CDC. I mean, if you watch the television commercials, the DC Health Department has one. They actually say you get the vaccine, you can take the mask off. And they've got a mask mandate in DC right now.
Yeah, I mean, part of the problem with this vaccine mandate is that we really don't know if it's really constitutional at this point. I mean,
well,
there's Republican governors who said they're going to sue. Biden's basically like, well, come at me. Let's go ahead and do that. This is going to be a big court battle, I think. Where
there was a smallpox outbreak around the turn of the century in Massachusetts where they mandated smallpox vaccination. I believe the Supreme Court basically said, yes, government, you can do that. You can force vaccinations, for smallpox. And was a different court. How will this court interpret it? Hopefully differently, because it does come down to individual rights. Okay. The way I look at it is this. Okay. I'm fully vaccinated, and until just a few months ago, I was told I can go. I don't have to wear a mask anymore because I'm fully vaccinated, because I'm not a danger to myself or anyone else. And all of a sudden, Delta, and people who have gotten the Delta variant, who have been vaccinated, have gotten a very mild form of it. They're not dying. There's no hospitalization. People that are going to the hospitals right now are the people that are not vaccinated. And they're the one, they're going. I mean, it's those actually, the grand scheme of things, the numbers are not as high as they trumpet them out to be, frankly. And my 2 cents, I think in Maryland, I think Montgomery County, PG County are the only 2 counties that have a mask mandate. Jeff, you can go into your Harris Teeter and not wear a mask, correct?
Yeah, I mean, out of respect, I've been wearing a mask when I'm, in public, just because.
But you don't have, but that's your free choice. You're not mandating.
Yeah. So, and some businesses are requesting that people wear masks. So I'm kind of ambivalent about that. I mean, I see both sides. I mean, first of all, I don't think unless it's like a national emergency, which it's kind of like Congress, like one of its acts is like, they be able to declare an act of war and acts of national emergency where, there is things that we need to do in extraordinary circumstances. Beyond that, the problem is that from a practical standpoint, it's been the president who declares war, not Congress, and the president who's made these executive decisions about, the state of emergency. Just like the governors typically are the ones within the state to declare the state of emergency, which I understand because it's easier and quicker to go through the executive branch and than it's supposed to have a special session to to have everyone agree upon the thing. But there's also be a limited period where it should expire and say, okay, we have a a small window where a national emergency or a state emergency is a short, like it's a a flooding or loss of power or something, but not like these month-long, year-long kinds of things where you could make a whole change in how people interact with each other. So again, that's too much power in my estimation for the executive branch to have. That should be a legislative process. That being said, to your point about the rights, I think as an American, we have certain inalienable rights. Now, it doesn't say anything about like personal, like protective equipment, but that being said, it's like, I get the fact that nobody likes wearing a mask. I hate wearing a mask, and if I had to wear a mask all the time because I had to work in a public environment, I would be like looking for any excuse to take it off.
Yeah, I mean, the times I have to go to NASA now, I got to wear a mask, and I loved going to NASA more than any of the other government agencies I go to, but now I got to wear a mask, and I don't want to be there as long as I used to. I could live there. That's how much fun I had there.
Like, I kind of think of it like almost like a seatbelt. I mean, nobody likes wearing a seatbelt either. I've gotten used to it. I mean, a seatbelt is not nearly as uncomfortable.
Oh, come on, Jeff. We're the clicker ticketed generation. They drilled that into us by showing us those.
We've all become socially adapted to like wearing a seatbelt. I mean, there was a time I barely remember it where like obviously going to school, there were seatbelts. Who's never heard of a seatbelt on a bus? You take public transportation. There's no seatbelts on the MTA, and same thing on the metro. Of course, you're not going to fly with anything in the metro, but there are certain scenarios where you still don't wear a seatbelt. But those are kind of almost like it feels weird not wearing a seatbelt. So again, I understand we give up certain rights for the greater good. Now that is one of those areas you got to be very careful about because you want to make sure you don't cross the line into like precedent. And it's the same thing for whether it be gun control rights or personal, safety, or, even like smoking. I mean, I occasionally smoke, and I hate, I mean, I used to smoke in bars, and I thought it was up to the restaurant to choose whether or not they wanted to have smoking patrons or not. But now it's like, it's not restaurants. The government's decided that you can't smoke in doors anymore. It's just not allowed. And I'm like, when did this become a thing?
Well, that was it's also secondhand smoke is the other thing on there, but
But sure, but they still
I mean,
had.
I enjoy. I mean,
where you
not
smoke.
being a smoker, I enjoy going to the stained glass pub because I used to smell like an ashtray when I'd come out of there. I don't know, Don, if you remember when they were smoking at the stained glass pub. I don't remember those days.
Well, smoking at any restaurant, plus smoking on the plane.
Yeah. Oh, I hate. Yeah. By the way, Don, I'm sharing with us the Supreme Court ruled. It was the Jacobson case, Jacobson versus Massachusetts, and basically the vaccine. Supreme Court ruled a vaccine could be mandatory.
So when was this? Since
1905.
Okay.
And this has to deal with the smallpox outbreak they had. And I'll share the link for our many viewers.
With a conservative majority, or at least
I don't think it's going to.
I don't think that we would get to that point. And I think because of freedom, because of individual freedom and liberty, this type of things, I think it would be hard. They'd be hard pressed to go in that direction as that particular Supreme Court did for this. And modern medicine. I mean, 1905. I mean, medicine was nowhere near where
1905. A rusty nail could kill you from tetanus.
Yeah, I mean, people didn't live very long in 1905.
I mean, 1905. We'd be considered like really old people in 1905. We should be.
Oh yeah, look. I mean, we would be. We'd be. We'd be the outliers in essence. I mean, it was pretty rare to see people live this long, but to see all of that happening. I mean, the idea that Joe Biden is trying to tell private businesses that everybody has to be vaccinated and things like that, I think that's just a bridge too far.
That is a bridge too far. Telling, this is Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi both said last December, we're not going to mandate a vaccine.
Right.
And now you're mandating a vaccine for federal employees. Saying, why don't you? There's some people that cannot take a vaccine. Why? And then they want them to take a COVID test every 3 days, I believe it is, or every 7 days, and it's at the expense of the individual. I mean, there's got to be a middle ground. I mean, this is just, we're too extreme on this side of the whole. You better get a vaccine or else. It's kind of like you better eat all your vegetables, and how that always worked out when our parents would tell us to eat our vegetables. They didn't get eaten. They got hidden under stuff.
Well, I mean, I always consider respect out of the vulnerable population, so the elderly, compromised, the people that that would be easily affected by this. I mean, those are the people that I consider them. Which is why, out of respect, I try to do things that I might feel a freedom that I voluntarily give up. So one of those things is like, again, I hate to say it, but part of the reason I'm a Republican is because I believe in the kind of the federalist idea of Congress and the government, where the U.S. government's role is to regulate interstate commerce and those kind of things. I think the states themselves have the rule to issue state mandates based upon what they think is appropriate. Down to localities have their power to issue mandates based on localities, based upon, and then individual restaurants or ownerships basically have their right to establish their own rule, as long as it's discriminatory for a certain class of people.
Exactly.
Not like it's that mask wearing is not mask wearing is a class, but something that's a protected class. Where
I mean, it's like it's kind of like if I wanted to have a business in liberal Montgomery County and I only wanted to, if I said no Democrats welcomed, you can't eat at my restaurant, I should be perfectly within my rights of doing that. I mean, it'd be stupid because there are not enough Republicans in Montgomery County to support a business entity. You'd want to take everyone's money because it's still green.
And it's like assumed you have a bike. You don't like have to have a bike, but you probably be looked at pretty strangely if you're wearing a Jimmy Buffett, Florida shirt or something.
Yeah. And what's funny is we've got, I think the left has just gone too far. And I think bold predictions, I think Gavin Newsom goes down next Tuesday. I think Terry McAuliffe goes down. There was a poll today that has Youngkin up by 2. The Youngkin McAuliffe race reminds me a lot of the Hogan Anthony Brown race, where nobody thought that Anthony Brown was a shoe-in. Everybody said, "Oh, Anthony Brown's going to win. Larry's never going to win. Larry's never going to win." And Larry Hogan pushed that. And I tell you, the latest Glenn Youngkin commercial about how Virginia being one of 13 states that taxes bread, butter, eggs, and necessities and food products, it is brilliant. He is doing commercials. What's that?
Which state does that?
There's 13 states, Virginia being one of the 13.
That's food items?
They tax milk, yeah.
Wow.
And Glenn Youngkin is got a commercial out there where he's going to eliminate tax on necessities, which is food, bread, food products in general. Even sodas, unless, Fairfax County still have a soda tax, but if you go out to Richmond, you'll be able to buy sodas without paying tax. It's just, like there's no soda tax. Well, actually, I think Montgomery County does have a soda tax. I'm not sure, but I'm sure one of our brilliant viewers will tell me if we have a soda tax or not in Monkey County.
Well, I know we tried to, implemented the fat tax for things that have like high sugar, high, caloric things.
Yeah.
But to your point, I mean, if it's a necessity, I just never thought that was a thing. I thought that all states just exempted tax on food items that like bread, butter, milk.
Yeah, I mean, Glenn Youngkin has this great commercial. Let me see if I can find it. But it's he shows the price of how things have gotten more. What do you call how things have gone up? Prices have gone up. It's not. Things are not as, he does this thing where price of milk, he shows how it's ticked up in the last 4 years. She should just say in the last 8 months, how everything's gotten more expensive. And I think the other surprise is going to be Jason Morales, who is probably going to be the next Attorney General of the great state of Virginia. And
I think on the Virginia side, this is McAuliffe. I mean, he's really running on his laurels as the governor, having already been the governor before.
He's Dick Thornburg is what he is.
He hasn't introduced anything that are new ideas or anything like this, and he continues to point at Youngkin and just basically try to tie him to Trump. And almost a Biden type strategy is like, I'm not Trump, so vote for me.
Yep.
Because Youngkin is Trump, so don't vote for him. There has been, I get emails from Terry McAuliffe. I get several a day from his campaign. And I find it to be interesting because there's basically nothing about policy positions about what Terry McAuliffe will do for Virginia or how, what improvements he could make over whatever Ralph Northam has done, for the past 4 years. It is all about Youngkin and all of this stuff, and there's just not a lot of substance there to that. So it's desperation. We're behind in the polls. Yeah. We're not meeting our fundraising targets. To me, that's not the way you win a race. Mm-hmm. And the Democrats have the advantage in Virginia theoretically, but this is the Republicans' best chance they've had in a long time in Virginia to really try to flip the script. And they need to get the legislature back. They totally screwed up and they lost the legislature. They need to start getting that back and getting Youngkin. Attorney General. Who's to say? Even the lieutenant governor candidate, if Youngkin polls strongly enough, all of those offices could turn Republican for the first time in how many years?
Since Jim Gilmore won, that was the last time.
So this is going to be a big deal if it happens. Yeah. Now, Dwight, I'm going to say I think you're dead wrong on Gavin Newsom because I think there are problems here. Is that I don't. There was. The poll showed initial enthusiasm.
Don, real quick, I found the ad. Let's share. Let's
run the ad.
Here's the ad, everyone. This is Glenn Youngkin running for governor. His ad. Here we go.
Youngkin gets a free plug.
Yeah.
It's not your imagination. Consumer prices are going up. And to make matters worse, Virginia is only one of 13 states to tax groceries. As governor, I will eliminate Virginia's grocery tax. Career politicians will call it radical. But to me, it's just common sense. Because saving a little extra on milk and bread and all of this, it adds up. It's time to make it a little easier to live, work, and raise a family here in Virginia.
And that's a great ad, I think. It's probably one of the better ads I've seen in a while. I don't know. Let me get your Sky's sense on it.
No, I mean, go ahead, Jeff.
By Robin Ficker saying he was making an issue on his TV for tonight. I'll put a flash on the screen.
Oh, okay. You did it. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a good ad. I mean, this is at this point in time, you might as well take advantage of the way the politics are running and things are running. I mean, you don't necessarily have to point out who's responsible for this. I mean, and I still say that despite all the criticism for the Democrats and Biden for what's been going on there are supply chain issues that have just befuddled everybody. I mean, and it happens in every state at this point in time. They're trying to unclog the bottlenecks in various states. So this is part of the issue, but it isn't right now. It is an issue that faces a lot of Democrats. Is how do you solve that? I mean, when you're talking taxes, you will speak to a lot of people, and I am just completely. I don't understand why Virginia has this grocery tax. I don't understand I don't know what the other 12 states are. But that just bothers the heck out of me. Are we not taxed enough that we've got to pay taxes on our groceries, our basics, our bread, and butter and stuff like that? Come on, give me a break.
I mean, look at Maryland. What do you call by the way, here are the 13 states. You've got shocker, most of them are blue states.
Maryland just had raised their cigarette tax too, so I know that because by cigarettes. So it's like now it's like up to $11.50 a pack or something crazy.
You've got
and yet you still buy them, huh?
Some people drink soda. I don't like soda. My price is a beer and cigarettes. I'm sorry.
You got
you're very old school.
You got Arkansas, which is a shocker. It's 0.125%. Illinois is 1%. Missouri is 1.23. Virginia is 2.5. But guess who the winner is? Mississippi, 7%.
7%.
Kansas,
yikes.
Kansas, 6.5. Idaho, 6.1. South Dakota, come on, Christy Nome, get on this, 4.5%. And then you have Oklahoma is 4.5. Tennessee, 4.0. Hawaii.
So the other thing about this, to be fair too, is that I think that when we're discussing these things, I mean, I hate this tax to begin with. I don't care if it's 0.125 or 7%. I think it's just a horrid idea to have.
It's a war on the poor, is what it is.
But for some of these states, what I would actually be interested in seeing overall to equalize this is to see what is the overall tax burden in that state to the taxpayers, because what happens is that you may have states that have a very low or no state income tax. Well, then they've got to find the money somewhere else. So then that means sales taxes of various types, property taxes may be higher, and things like that. So it may be that, Virginia is known as, compared to the rest of the DMV, they've generally, I think, had a lower overall tax burden because Maryland's personal tax, our tax rates on our income are much higher. But then again, Virginia has the property tax on vehicles, right? Even the car tax, even though Gilmore, cut it back, he didn't quite get it all the way down to zero. So they're kind of checks and balances. But I remember when I was looking at places that I thought, where could I retire to? I thought, Texas has got no state income tax and things like that.
Florida,
but I think it was the Tax Foundation or something like that did an analysis of all the states. And actually, the overall tax burden in Texas was fairly high because they made it up with higher sales taxes and other taxes.
But Florida, the highest sales tax is about 7%. Where I am in Brevard, it's 6%, which is the same it is in Maryland. So, by the way, here's the graph, Don. Alabama. What is going on in these red states?
Yeah, see, I thought Utah was in there. I thought I paid.
Yeah, Utah is 3%.
I thought I paid taxes on my groceries when I've been out in Utah. Yeah,
that's crazy, isn't it? It's like,
you know what I really hate though about sales taxes is that in these states like Florida, like California, is that you really don't know what the sales tax is from city to city unless you looked up in advance. You go to one city and you're paying like 6%. You go 100 miles away and then it's like 9%. And California is horrible. California sales taxes are high. Their property taxes are high. Their income taxes are high. It's like, why do you live in California?
Because their taxes are high.
You have to be the Clampetts to be able to afford anything. What is the median price of a house in California? Is $850,000.
That's like Laurel. I'm not even. That doesn't even bother me anymore.
850,000.
I can't get a house for less than. But
Well, I mean, look. I mean, I was at a funeral today, and we were talking with an old friend of ours. And so, I mean, this guy's he's probably easily 20 years older than I am. So all his kids are all grown and they're scattered throughout the States. But one of his kids, he was talking about, had moved from Maryland and then was working in Austin. And the guy's in the tech industry. But then he realized, he said, heck, I mean, what am I doing sitting in this house that, could fetch a lot of money at this point in time? Where else am I going to get this? And his father was saying that, he put the house on the market for like $975, and I think they paid less than $500,000 for it or something like that. And the lowest offer was 30% over the asking price.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
So where is he now? He's living in Salisbury area.
Yeah, he probably does. He own half the city now.
Well, I mean, I should have asked this question because I'm going to assume that partly as a result of the atmosphere today is that he's a guy who can work from anywhere and just work remotely. He is now decamped to a lower cost area for him. I mean, the Eastern Shore, come on, and made a ton of money on his house. Not bad,
No,
but
I don't understand this whole like housing, crisis. So I know the pandemic, has freed a lot of people from like living in the city close to their jobs. But it seems counterintuitive still to me that if you can like live wherever you want to live, why live in an expensive area?
Well,
It's like because prices have just skyrocketed, and I'm like, I would have assumed that it would have been the affordable housing that would have been. Like the more distant rural areas that would become more hot items, not so much the places that are close to work, but the places that are far from work, the places that are more remote. But I don't know. I don't understand that.
But I think, Jeff, part of the problem is you got also a lot of people, realtor was telling a lot of people that lived in apartments don't want to be in apartments. So they're moving out of the city just to the suburbs. To get out of
people have disposable income too. I mean, I understand if you're paying the same for an apartment as you would for a home, it makes sense because why not? But people like apartments because of the flexibility that there's no long-term commitment, no maintenance required. But even house rentals, that's the thing that I don't get too, is that it's not always these people that are buying the houses. You get these companies, these billion-dollar companies buying up these properties just to sell them. I mean, you get a property bought within a weekend, and it's on the market as a rental unit now.
Yeah, and that's
before how the whole millennial age is like they're going to be renting, they're not going to be buying.
Well, that's where my youngest son is stuck at right now, because he just got married about a month ago. And they had been searching for a house for months, and my now daughter-in-law had made a decent slug of money, not a huge amount, but enough to make a good down payment on a house, in Utah, from selling a property that she had as a rental that she'd bought many, many years ago, on the advice of her father. And the problem is that they just can't find anything that's remotely affordable at this point. So they're renters until they can find a way to cool this off. Now, one of the things too is that we have these conditions in the country that distort the market for a lot of things. We talk about the unemployment, the extra $300, which is now ended. Distorts the labor market. Right. Then we also have the eviction moratorium, which is going to be ending supposedly.
What's the status of that? I haven't kept up with that. Is that it's pretty new to, I'd assume.
Well, I mean,
No,
the Democrats want to do it. I mean, they say that by not doing so, it's this is horrible. You'll be throwing all these people on the street. But there was an article in the Wall Street Journal the other day from people who do a lot of house flipping and stuff like that, and have been doing so since the financial crisis of 2008. So one of the problems is that actually the eviction moratorium has shrunk the supply. He says, part of the natural ebb and flow of how things work is that people do get evicted. It's unfortunate, but for whatever reason, they do get evicted. Inventory opens up, whether or not it's homes or apartments or whatever, condos. And there's a very tight supply of all this because they don't have to move. They haven't been forced. There are people out there, this is what really gets me about this whole thing too, is that people out there who actually have paying jobs, they've been earning their money, but with the eviction moratorium, they stop paying their rent even if they could, and the landlord gets stuck with the bill, right? And
what if you get evicted at the end? I mean, you've paid
But my favorite story on that, Don,
that's money in the bank. That's like $1,000.
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite story on that is there's a guy in New York City, and there's probably plenty others like him. He's got a house in upstate. So when this all happened, he sublet his apartment and moved to his place upstate New York. I think it's in somewhere near Albany. He's been getting rent consistently from his subleaser. And he's actually making a couple $100 with that. But he has not paid the landlord a dime because of this moratorium.
Oh, okay. So he's collecting from them, but he's not making the payments to the landlord. So the eviction moratorium has got him saying, like, I'm collecting. I think there are lots of stories like that. I think I've heard other stories of similar nature where, I mean, that taking advantage of a system.
He's going to either pay up his back what he owes, in back payments, or his sublease is going to be kicked out for no good reason because they've been paying, so they're not expecting to be kicked out, but the lease is up to his name. So.
Well, yeah, and that's assuming too that the person subleasing believes, which you generally would, that the person you're renting from is actually making the payments so that you're safe and you're safe in the sublet.
Right.
And then you're going to find out, like, no, you're going to be out on your ear because once the moratorium is fully expired, because I think California and New York are still keeping theirs in effect, but it is expiring everywhere else for the most part.
And this guy actually is making $200 on top of his rent, so he's coming out ahead. Just pay your damn rent. You're coming out ahead $200.
Right.
In upstate New York, where it's not near as expensive as in Midtown, where his rent is.
Yeah, look, I feel bad for people who are who lost their jobs because of the pandemic. I feel bad for for people that as a result couldn't afford to pay their rent or meet their mortgage payments. But we've been at this thing for more than a year and a half.
We're coming
now.
up on 2 years almost.
So as a result, and most things are slowly have been returning to normal. People have been, people seem to be recovering fairly well overall. And things like that. The government has given them money either through extra unemployment benefits or through the stimulus, child tax credits, that go out to people who don't even need the child tax credit. All of these things are happening. So it's like, look, we have got to get back where the natural cycle of events goes so that we can get to some kind of normal equilibrium within the economy, because we are just at massive distortions. I don't know where we're going with a lot of these things because we have all these programs that keep propping people up, and we just don't have a real good gauge of where we are.
Well, that's, I hate to say it without getting too political, this is almost like the socialist kind of agenda. It's like, the people that can't afford, for whatever reason, I'll use that term loosely, but either can't work, don't want to work, choose not to work, whatever, that they are permanently supported by this economic policy where people that really are trying to get things work, they have to support all of the the people who just choose not to work. And we're seeing it where people aren't being evicted, they're giving unemployment that is extended, they're giving child tax credits, so they're making as much, if not more, than they would have at a job, and then they don't have to pay the rent. So why not just hang tight, play video games for a couple months, and just take life easy until you're forced to. I mean, I get it, because if I didn't have to work, I wouldn't work. I mean, I get money because I do work, but if I was making $10 an hour, working flipping burgers, and I was suddenly getting more money for the unemployment and didn't have to pay rent, I'd be like, yeah. I mean, it'd be hard for me to turn it down, because why wouldn't you? It's incentivized.
Yeah, I mean, look. Even the most industrious of people I mean, if you're basically going to say, I'm just going to give you this free money and you don't really have to work, I think even them are like, well, that's a no-brainer. I can go play golf. You know, I can go do all these fun things. I mean, this is one of the things that happened during the pandemic too, right? People started to realize there is more to life than just working and grinding away. And if I can find a way to kind of change my path a little bit, but still make some money, but not have to work as hard and all these kinds of things, they're doing it. I mean, there have been some entrepreneurs that have been able to start. People decided, oh, I'm chucking this and I'm going to do this. And that's great. I mean, I love entrepreneurs in this country. It really is the backbone of a lot of things that we are and who we are and what we do in this country. But yeah, look, I'm an A1 example of someone's like, look, if you can give me money and I really don't have to work too hard or work at all, I'm fine with that. I'm turning 62 next week. The older I get, the less I really want to. I love politics. I love all of these things. But I can spend more time with Dwight, right? And we can talk. We can have all these wonderful conversations.
Yeah.
I can play, do that, and I don't have to worry about all these stupid, work assignments and things like that.
Yeah, we can do these podcasts. Sit around and do podcasts all day.
That's right. I can do podcasts and just like, hey, what the heck,
Yeah.
So I'm easily working, and I find other pursuits. I'm like, this is a lot better than working, but I know I have to actually do a few things to earn my paychecks.
Yeah,
I'll make a deal with you. If you want to do podcasting full time, I'll get you a golden EIB mic.
I love that idea.
We've actually, we've got these bad habits, Don and Jeff, that we've all developed. We like to eat. We like to live in nice homes. We like to have heat and water. Those little habits that we've gotten. That's why we have to work. If we didn't have those stupid habit and addictions that we have, we wouldn't have to work ever. I mean, what's funny is I remember. I'm not sure if this is a real story or something like The Onion, but how this COVID has impacted the professional homeless, the panhandlers. I think it was The Onion, because they were saying the panhandlers demand stimulus checks for because less cars on the road means less money they're collecting tax free. So they were like, it's funny. If AOC saw that, she'd want to do that. Hey, let's give money to professional panhandlers. It's not their fault that nobody's going to work. And by the way, this is how I know a lot of our professionals, when they had the mask mandate, they all got masks. Shocker. They all got masks, and they're nice masks. Some of them have, some of them who know how to play the part has those paper masks and so on. But they got a new one every day. I mean, those things cost money, the professionals, But
while we're overtime, Dwight, shall we?
Yes, I got a great final thought too. So, final thoughts, everyone. We're in extra innings. Let's start with Jeff. Final thoughts.
Yeah, I guess just two final thoughts. First, today is Star Trek Day.
Yes, it is.
So, live long and prosper, everyone. And
exactly.
I would say may the fourth be with.
I wish I could do that thing.
This is easy. There's like one you have to like do the two fingers. That's hard for me to do. But this one, I can do the Spock thing. That's like nothing. I can't raise my eyebrow. That's
yeah, I can do that.
Anyway, so Gene Roddenberry, author of Star Trek. It was a 65.
Yeah.
This was I still think the original series. I mean, I just took it for granted. I didn't realize back then, how innovative it was. But you look at other contemporary shows. You had like Space 1999 or some those things like that. Those seem like.
It's funny you should mention Space 1999. Martin Landau's character. He was also in Mission Impossible with his wife Barbara Baines.
Mm-hmm.
He was offered the role of Spock, but he didn't want to do it.
But you look at the production quality of both of those shows, and I don't know what it was about Star Trek, but that seemed like even today it just seems like such a high. I mean, yeah, some of the effects were just horrible effects. Some of the monster scenes were just like, they're just totally like Godzilla-ish.
Yeah,
but
the Gorn, that's their patron deity. They worship Godzilla.
It's
also easy to judge that like that, knowing what we know today, right? We go back and
we don't have digital cropping and moving masks and all the kind of stuff that we have today, the fancy stuff. So anyway, Happy Star Trek Day. And then, of course, 9/11 being on the eve of that, just remember those that have given their lives in the service, both those that are impacted directly and as well as our, the first responders, the military that's been deployed. Everyone has been affected some way. I mean, we talked about how 9/11 has, we all remember where we were at that point in time. It's like, it's not even like PSTD, but if you can understand like how you just can't erase certain memories, some people experience it more directly than even we have. So for them, it will never be less poignant. So let's remember those that have been, affected by it in one way or another, and just remember that, we found solidarity in the country. I mean, there are a lot of things that, you still have to take my shoes off at the airport as a result, and I think that's kind of silly. But regardless, we really came together as a country. We really unified it that this is something that we can't let happen again. And we've kind of forgotten that. I think we are letting it happen again, and that's I think one of the true tragedies is that if we don't learn from the past, we're doomed to repeat it. So hopefully there's enough of that memory left that people will understand that there are certain things that just cannot be allowed to happen. So that's what I got.
Okay, my final thought is also kind of an outrage. I do enjoy the CW DC comic shows they do. They've got a very wokey McWokey one called Supergirl, which if it was the 1960s, they'd be calling her Super Chick like they did on Teen Titans cartoon, where Wonder Girl was called Wonder Broad, Wonder Chick, Wonder Gal many a times on the show. But anyways,
wasn't there a gal? There wasn't Wonder Gal, but it was some sort of gal.
Yeah, it was Wonder Gal. Basically on Teen Titans, the 1960s cartoon. That's how Speedy and Kid Flash would call her Wonder Gal. They'd call her Wonder Doll.
Remember there was Electro Woman and Dinah Girl.
Yeah.
A gal, but anyway.
But anyways, I was watching and I was kind of interested that they had a Councilwoman Reagan, on there. And what do? They make her the villain. She's the one that wants to tear down all these housing for former prisoners to let what their universe's Amazon is to come in and tear everything down and build up their headquarters there. And they made Councilwoman Reagan to be the villain, even at the end where Supergirl goes up to, you made the right decision. And they have her say in a very snippy tone, I didn't vote for that. You may have won. Enjoy the dregs of society. I'm like, they could have named it. This was a conscious decision by the show writers calling her Reagan.
Just like in the Matrix, that was a lot of references to Ronald Reagan, having Alzheimer's, losing his memory, being famous person. You don't remember anything, but anyway.
Yeah, and that's my outrage, and my final thought is, something. I am glad the show is Supergirl. This is their last season. They don't deserve to be on anymore, frankly. And it's just, season 1, season 2 were pretty good. Then they started going woke and all that, and now I can't even watch the commercials on the CW. They're all pushing HR 1 and Senate 1 with the Voting Rights Act. Oh, we need to modify you people, you damn Hollywood elitists. You don't even know what the hell the Voting Rights Act is about or what S1 or HR. Just because you're very woke and you feel, anybody should. You don't need to be an American to be allowed to vote. But that's that's the problem. Is too many dumb people getting involved. By the way, as today being Star Trek Day, there is a fellow YouTuber, Lore Reloaded. He's got a great chronicle of the Dominion Wars where he talks about how the evolution of the Federation, because the Dominion Wars, if anybody watched Deep Space Nine, was the time the Federation actually had an equal in a battle. They could clean the Romulans' clock any day of the week, the Klingons. There was no real equal to them in the quadrant. The Dominion went toe-to-toe with them, and the Federation had forgotten how to fight a war, a knockdown, drag-out war, and they had to learn the art of war, so to speak, all over again. By the end of the series, they were more like Captain Kirk's Federation than Next Generation's Federation. I think it was a good thing, frankly. I think Picard was soft. Picard had the opportunity to wipe out every Borg in existence, but he decided not to because he's soft on the Borg. But anyways, wow, imagine if it was like But, and my other final thoughts is Red, White, and Blue dinner is coming up, and you can still get tickets at mdgop.org. And scroll down and get a ticket, buy a ticket to the Red, White, and Blue dinner. Also, on October, I believe it is October 8th. Hold on one second. I will get the exact date for you. It is Prince George's County is doing their Lincoln Day dinner, and it is their Lincoln Day dinner is going to be October 8th. It's a Friday night at the lovely Bowie Comfort Inn in lovely Bowie, Maryland, almost in Anne Arundel County. They've got their Lincoln Day dinner. Tickets are only $85. It's a 3-course dinner and silent auction cash bar. And it's a good event. I recommend everyone going. Go to pggop.com, and they have all the information there for that event. And that's my final thought. Don, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. First one is something that. So I'm a big pumpkin spice lover, though I've been trying to tame my appetite for all things pumpkin spice. Every time I mention pumpkin spice, Dwight comes back with Shamrock Shake.
Yes, the War of the Irish.
So anyway, I found out that Krispy Kreme was for only 1 week were they doing their pumpkin spice their various donuts. So I went out the other day and picked up a dozen, and I had a variety. So they have the regular pumpkin glaze, they have the pumpkin cake, and then they have the pumpkin. They have the pumpkin that is the cream cheese fill, right? Pumpkin cream. So I know how much my wife loves this whole cream cheese kind of thing like this, and so I bought. I think it was like 8 of those versus 4 of the others or whatever.
Did you show your vaccine card? You could have gotten one for free.
Only the regular ones.
Yeah.
The only regular donuts. No special donuts.
No fancy.
For everyone anyway, if you like watch them make them, you just they'll just give you a free one just for showing up.
Matter of fact, up until for 1 week, they were giving you 2 free donuts if you showed your vaccine card. One regular and one in a shape of a heart, which I don't know what the difference really is there. It's all fattening to me one way or the other. But I bought those darn things, and my wife she's pretty particular about this whole this cream cheese pumpkin thing. And she's like, she liked them so much. I think she ate 7 of the 8 donuts. Okay. Within the span of 2 days.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for the hot
more, but she's declined. Yeah. I'm not helping her at all, in doing this. But that was it. So highly recommended from my wife for those. But I think they're, like they said, they're only going to be here for about a week or so. That's what the email I got said. So I still may go back over there and sneak over a few more of those. But then the second one was to also kind of just also piggyback on what you were saying, Jeff, about 9/11. And, as we've talked during this whole discussion earlier, in the program about, remembering what happened there. I was listening today to the podcast that come out of the Ronald Reagan Library out of California. And 9/11 occurred long after Reagan left office, but the Reagan Library did hold 9/11 type of events, and brought in various people and things like this. And, and I hadn't really thought about it too much, but one of the speakers at this event, which apparently occurred about 10 years ago, they were running a bunch of old talks, was a New York firefighter who survived. And, he talked about the things that he got involved with at the time, which was the toxicity problem, the issue of all the toxic stuff that was going on for all those. And, and if you think about it, a lot of times people think about 9/11 and those that died on that day. We lost 3,000 some Americans on that day, but there have been huge after effects from that because, you think about the jet fuel and all the other things that happened that day, is that we wound up with a lot of people, first responders in particular, that wound up that got ill, got sick, and then died as a result of responding to 9/11 in those terrible, terrible conditions. So I hope that we also, remember that we have a lot of victims, those that died immediately on that day through the terrorist attacks, but also those that have suffered, either that are still managing to stay alive but have got terrible disabilities as a result of responding to that. You know, the first responders, they are our heroes. I was scheduled, I'm not quite sure exactly what happened here. I was scheduled to actually give blood tomorrow. It's my normal 56-day thing. And I was thinking like, oh, I haven't received any updates from the Red Cross. They normally are trying to say confirm. And so I did double check, and now I'm scheduled for next week. And I thought, you know, I wonder that as they got close, when they realized that they were going to be open on 9/11, that maybe it wasn't such a good idea for them to be open on 9/11, you know, and they just pushed everybody's, donation dates, their appointments to another day and everything like that. I wouldn't be surprised. I would have been more than happy to give blood tomorrow. I think that would have been a great symbolic type of thing as well. But never, we shouldn't forget, as you said, don't forget those that died during 9/11. We have families that have suffered for 20 years. It's been a terrible tragedy, and it's unfortunate, but it's something that will live with us. I think all of us here on the show, the rest of our lives, as well as a lot of other Americans. It will be indelibly etched in our memory, and we just should always remember those at this time. And it'll be a very somber and special day tomorrow, as it is every year. So thanks everyone for being part of the show. Dwight?
Thank you, everyone. See everyone next week. We have another great show, and we've got a surprise guest on our sister show, Direct Line. We're working on somebody really big. So, by the way, next Friday I'll be on travel. So, Jeff, you'll be running the board? Okay. I'll be doing the show live from the beach again.
You're going back again?
Yeah, I got to go back down. Yeah, but I'm going to do this.
How come you weren't doing one from Ocean City?
I haven't gotten to Ocean City this year at all. That's the problem. Maybe like Columbus Day weekend or something. Go to Ocean City. Maybe do that.
It might be getting a little chilly by then, but hey,
nah, it's not bad. I mean, remember, this is fall. We're gonna be back in the 90s again. It's just a false, yeah. Ocean City would be a great place to do the show, so I am thinking about getting a suite so we could do the show from Rocky Gap. Are you coming to the convention, Don?
I haven't registered.
Okay. But let me end our stream. Thank you, everyone. See everyone next week.